Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and we are here once again at the Hyperbaby podcast. I am Chris, and sitting next to me is Amy.
Hello.
We'll be talking to a close friend and confidant today. His name's Connor Tigerrus. We kind of jumped right into the conversation, so Amy and I had to go back and do an intro. So if it seems a little jarring, we apologize, but there's some good conversation to be had.
Yeah, we were just, I think, too excited. When we all sit down to talk, we just go. So we forgot to put in this little intro. We're doing it backwards, but you get the idea.
So Connor is a good friend that we met through martial arts. I have a fairly lengthy martial arts background, and so does Connor. We met through Karate America. That was once in Wisconsin Rapids, and since then we've maintained our friendship, been kind of confiding in each other. He has some creative projects that he's working on, and so do we. He has a lot of good insight. He has a mental health background, so he has a lot to offer there because we're both crazy, and I think he helps us out. Amy is shaking her head.
Don't say that.
Probably going to get cut out, so just ignore what I said. No, we're not crazy, but Connor has some very good insights. He's been in the profession for a while. He actually introduced me to Eckhart Tolle. If you're not familiar, Eckhart Tolle is, I don't even know what you'd call him. He's kind of like a Tony Robbins, but it's more, to me, more of a spiritual
self-help guru.
Yeah, self-help, guru maybe.
Guru's maybe not the best word.
Yeah.
I don't know what to use, but
So anyways, I personally kind of cherry picked some of those items that I think are really work well for me, considering, there's so many out there. So we're going to talk a lot about the ego today. And for those of you who don't know what the ego is, in this context, it's basically the other you. There's another you inside of you that wants to fix all the problems, that wants to, doesn't want defeat, works through your pride. You say ego, someone who's very egocentric. We all know somebody like that, or several somebodies. And basically, my take on the ego is that it's something inside of you want to work with. The ego wants to solve problems. And there's a lot of talk about being present. I think the ego prevents you from being in the now. Being in the now, it'll help you with being your best self.
Which is kind of what we were talking about before in the last episode. And we're going to build on that today by talking about how you can work with your ego.
Yes.
And not against it.
So I won't bore you with the intro too much. We'll get this thing going. We talk about it much more eloquently and in depth in the actual conversation. So
yep. And stay tuned, because after the episode we will have another dramatic reading.
Yep.
So we get back into, I think it's day 4 of the Wheel of Cheese, Lost at Skull Crush.
And I get to be a little boy. So
so you definitely want to hang around for that.
Much change there.
But we're going to just jump right in to the conversation already in progress with myself, Chris, and Connor.
I love this quote from Heraclitus, was one of my favorite quotes, is, you cannot step into the same river twice. For a while, it took me a while to figure out, what does that all mean? Yeah, I step in the river, there's a river, and I step in it twice. Okay. No, because the idea is, and it's very, abstract, is the river is constantly flowing, just like life is constantly flowing. And every time you step in the river, you're a different person. Even though the step is like milliseconds later, there are so many changes going on, within our body, that we are a different person. So, it may be similar. The water's cold. I feel it moving past my leg. But at the same time, there is a newness. And if you can tap into that newness, that is always present. Just like use a metaphor. It's a river of life. Life is unfolding and it's constantly changing. If you can step into that and embrace that, almost every moment of the day, every day, there's a newness, that
Yeah, and for me, I think once you become internally, you recognize some of that things are changing, things are shifting, the frailty of it all. That adds to, at least for me, it's add to my being grateful, because you're almost like, how does anything work at all? It's really absolutely amazing. It really is.
Yeah, for me, the hardest part is setting aside. Like I said, I've got that to-do list. And the hardest thing for me to do is to set that aside. Because I realize the river's out there. I can see it. I know that it would be fabulous to step in that river. I know that. But I have a really hard time setting aside, because the back of my mind is just screaming, oh, there's bills. Oh, there's this job. Oh, there's that job. And house chores. And you know what I mean? Just everything that could possibly happen in a day is just sitting right behind my head. So I can see the river and I want to go there. But everything else is telling me later.
So in some ways, what you're talking about with the run with the river metaphor, and I'm going to give credit where credit is due, a number of different resources that I've experienced, but Pavel Samov in a bunch of his books, like The Lotus Effect and Present Perfect, and Anger Management, he uses a river metaphor. And what you're describing, in a sense, is you're caught up in the river. It's a raging river rushing you towards like a waterfall, and you're having trouble getting out of that river. And what you're seeing, actually, to kind of flip it a little bit, is you're seeing the riverbank, where you want to sit on the riverbank and watch things go by. So you're more mindful, and also you keep referring to your to-do list. It often says that we are more human doings than we are human beings. Human beings is about being present in the moment. Doesn't mean that you can't be doing something, but can you be present in the process of when you're doing? Eckhart Tolle talks about, I don't know if it's a Zen proverb, exactly how, what he referred to, but it's this concept of, hurry slowly. So the idea is that you're moving in a rather quick manner, yet your mind is slowed down, that you're just present in your movements. And the best experience I have with that is oftentimes when, way in the past when I used to run quite a bit, and I could just be in the process of my body's just moving, and I'm, it's moving at a pretty good clip, but I'm just there. My mind is slowed down. I can do that now. Recently I've taken jump roping again. And there are times that I can just be moving and have no concepts, no thoughts, nothing in my mind, and just being present. But my body is moving at a quite rapid pace.
Absolutely. I to that point, I think a lot of people have trouble sitting still, and they have trouble being with themselves. Because they think they should be doing something, they should be attending to some problem, trying to fix something. And I found that in myself in the last couple of years, working in IT, there's always a fire to be put out. Always. There's no end in sight to your job. Even if you're working projects, there's always something to come up and fill its place. So for me, I've found a lot of solace in doing that exact thing, where you may be at work and you may be stuck there for an 8 hour, 10 hour, excuse me. But there's still moments to be enjoyed there. There's still interactions with coworkers that you have the power to make good or come away with something good from. If you're stuck in that deadline, or someone's going to call, they're going to be angry. You're in a prison. You're kind of making a prison for yourself, and you're never gonna gain anything from it, and you're gonna have a miserable experience from point A to point B. So why not just slow it down and look around you and see, what, did that coworker come to me just to talk to me because I make them smile or whatever? Those things are there. You just gotta see them.
And what you're talking about is basically it takes practice. Again, the moments of being in the present are available to us all day long. And we just get caught up in the human doings, in our to-do lists, to provide for ourselves, pay the bills, get the groceries, mow the lawn, all those different things that are necessary. And they basically distract us from the present moment. Yet those very things can be a pathway to the present moment. So when you're making dinner for the family, you literally are just there, present with yourself as you are gathering the vegetables, cutting the vegetables, whatever you're doing. Feel your feet on the linoleum floor as you're walking across. Feel yourself, notice as you reach the handle for your fridge, and maybe pause and don't grab it with the dominant hand you're grabbing it with or intending to. Switch it up and grab it with your non-dominant hand. Right there is a present moment experience. And by doing that, you're actually wiring the brain to find more opportunities like that. They're really simple,
Absolutely.
We have it all day long.
Just a little slap in the face to your brain to say, look at what you're doing. Think about what you're doing.
Yeah, a literal slap in the face might work too, But
use your opposite hand.
Exactly. Or have your wife use your opposite hand.
Or don't ever not tell you when she's going to do it.
Right.
Real surprise.
Yeah, just like bringing you back to the present moment.
You told me to slap you.
It's actually, we kind of joke about it, but in some truth, that there's a moment that if she were to slap you without you knowing about it, before your brain kicks in, there will be a moment of space. There will be a moment of where you check out because you had this experience. Mm-hmm. And then your brain will flood again to try to judge it, to label it.
Solve the problem.
Right, solve the problem, to lash out, whatever it is. And it's that little split second, that little moment, you're like, before my brain started to flood with information, there was just this moment. It may be just very brief.
Would that be similar? I think we listened to Tony Robbins for a while. So, and again, taking things that work and fit. And one of the things I think was from him was changing your state. So if you're going down a path that was maybe a negative, frame of mind, or I can't do this, and you're getting a lot. Sometimes just changing your physical state or mental state, sort of jarring yourself out of that.
Yep, he actually did a lot with mantras and breathing exercises. So that's kind of a resetting, a gathering of your facilities. Pause. So it's similar stuff. They just put different words attached to it.
Pretty much. I mean, I'm familiar with Tony Robbins. I have a couple of his books, Waking the Giant. And that's coming to mind, and I have lots of individuals, the library, and you named it. What you notice if you read enough different authors is they're basically saying the same thing with a little different spin on it or a different word. And I love the word that I learned from Dr. Dan Siegel, who talks about consilience, which I believe was coined by E.O. Wilson, is consilience asks the question, what are the universal findings across independent pursuits of knowledge? So you have all these individuals. I don't remember recently when they're announcing like Nobel Prize winners, right? And it was amazing how a person or persons in the United States got the Nobel Prize along with somebody, let's say, over in Sweden or in Finland, and they were independent of each other, but they at the same time created. Like I think it was like a lithium battery or something like that one time where, again, they're independently pursuing, but there is universal truth there. And once you connect with those universal truths and you hear and see them, you will then start, whatever you read, you'll just pick them out because they're constantly there. Your awareness is that they're there. And what Tony was talking about is the state. It's our state of consciousness. There are many ways to alter our states of consciousness, and not just through the use of drugs or other means, illegal means
slapping
or whatnot,
your
or
wife or your
or
husband.
legal. Yeah, it's just that you can. What I practice for myself is I integrate throughout my day little moments where I'm practicing mindfulness and being present. Really, it's kind of no-mindedness, right? Like, things you do every day. Brush your teeth, brush with a non-dominant hand, put on your socks. Which foot do you put on first, right? You could create little mindful routines around some simple mundane tasks and create them what I call into fundane tasks, where you bring in this little playful moment with yourself And then if you sprinkled it and integrated it throughout your day, whenever you're on that state of consciousness, maybe you're just being carried away on it, something will come up in your day that you integrated and practiced that will bring you back to a state of conscious awareness in the present moment, because you've been going along your day, you're frustrated, maybe things aren't working well, but you go to your car, and every time you went to your car, you opened your door handle with your non-dominant hand. Boom. Instantly, you're brought back to the present moment. And the more you do that, your brain will check out of the present, be caught up in the past or the future, on the to-do lists, and then you have something in your day that you created this mindful moment where it brings you right back. Then you get taken away, and you come back.
So overall, what is the benefit of being in the present moment? Like, if we were to explain that to someone, why is that a good thing? Why do you want to be in the present?
My expression would be like, woo!
In a word.
In a word or an expression, woo! I'm getting chills. I got my hairs are standing on my arm, standing up. Is that when you are present in the now, you experience directly yourself this, what I call like this universal life force, this energy that is there. It's synergistic that you can't experience otherwise. It's in that present moment where, creativity comes, imagination, spontaneousness, playfulness, the things that we see in kids, and we're just like, I want more of that, but then our ego, or the way our brains are developed over time, we then get caught up in the to-do stuff. All the things that we need to do, or, that there's always something, our inbox is always full. And so then we get taken out of the moment, and we're on this raging river of to-do things that we need to get done. So then we can finally, eventually, when we're at a certain age, retire and then start living our lives. And at that point, a lot of times people have lost the capacity to do things that they really wanted to do, that are passionate about. So can you align the things that you're passionate about, and with providing for yourself and your family, and having a sense of play and being in the moment? Because when you are, you won't work a day of your life, because it's all play, it's all priceless.
So if you can achieve that state where you're not worried about the future and you're not beleaguered with things from the past, it frees you up to be able to have this more open-minded state and more creative. And this is where the good life is.
Right. And it's a birthright, or we came from that source. Children live in that. Again, it's a part of the natural process that when we educate them, we are teaching them language. We're teaching the parts of their brain which starts to take over more from being present in the now. And really, it's about trying to find that balance. It's really about, the balance of your ego, that's the mental constructs, that's the thoughts, the ideas, the beliefs, the words that just run through your mind. And then the moments where there's nothing in your mind. Example is, can you, look at something like a great mindfulness practice or a no mind practice is, can you go outside and watch something and not attach a label to it? So when you see a squirrel, can you just notice movement without labeling it as a squirrel? Can you go and look at a flower without calling it a flower? Flower doesn't know it's a flower, neither does a squirrel. But can you just look at it in its essence and just be caught up in observing and noticing it, and have no mind, have no thoughts running through your mind, or a voice chattering away?
Right. There's always that someone on your shoulder kind of talking to you. How often, or what's the percentage of your day do you think that you achieve that sort of no-mindedness state? You've been working on this for a long time.
I've been working on it for a long time, even more mindfully. Yet I go back to our strong background, Chris, and in the martial arts is, martial arts or athletics or physical activity can really bring you in the moment. Especially martial arts, I refer to that as because you're always working both sides of the body. And when you work both sides of the body, you tend to work on integrating the brain more. So you have the left hemisphere and the right hemisphere. And when you integrate those, you can experience more present moment mindedness or no mindedness. So to go back to specifically to your question, Amy, is when I started this, into this, I kind of go back to one of the biggest, profoundest experiences was being a stay-at-home dad. So in that 5 years, there was so many times where I was just drawn into the present moment and experiencing that because I wanted to, be there with my son that time in and be there and help him and support him and keep the environment safe and, care for him, feed him, all those things. There were so many mindful moments. So I was experiencing that. Then as I, pursued, once he went to school, I pursued my master's in mental health counseling. And, there was a profound class that I had was mindfulness with one of the professors. He was an amazing, individual who was just grounded in the present moment. And, that was a very immersive class where we talked about it and we practiced certain mindfulness type activities, exercises. And then we had like the sitting meditation, walking meditation. So it really gave you more practical experiences of that. So then as I'm engaging in the profession, I feel a significant responsibility that if I'm going to encourage or suggest to anyone to try something out, I want to make sure that I've practiced it and I have a real personal experience so that I can, from my own experiences, share with them to say, I think this might be beneficial for you. From my own personal experiences, this is what I've gained and this is what the experts are saying, this is the evidence behind it, all those kind of things. But really it's up to you to experience for yourself and decide if it has any merit or value or benefit for you. Because really it could benefit me, but you might try it going, nope, that's not for me. So back to, tend to ramble until I come back to your question, is at what percentage am I, grounded mindfully in the present moment throughout the day? 80% comes to my mind right now. I think that's kind of like an ideal I'm striving for because you can't always be there. But because of how I've integrated a number of different activities throughout my day, those help me to cultivate that present moment mindedness.
And like you talked about earlier, it's a work in practice and progress.
Absolutely.
It's a muscle you have to flex to
Absolutely.
make it stronger and to make it more frequent.
Or it's a work in process,
Yeah.
right? I love all those things, progress and process. So it's just process. There is no. I love I love quotes. The Gandhi quote, "The end is inherent in the means." So, or the quote, "Every step on the path is the path," which I don't know who that one's attributed to. So the more you can step on that path and be present, you are part of that. You're part of the process, the unfolding.
Yep.
And then you notice when you're caught up in trying to attain maybe a product or get a goal accomplished or something like that, and you're chasing something in the future rather than working towards something but in the present moment. Yeah,
Sure. Just focusing on the outcome versus the product right now in this moment. How good can I make this? How much energy am I putting into like my writing project? If I'm constantly going, I want to just get it published, just get it done, rather than sitting down and going, okay, this chapter, this sentence, this paragraph, I want this to be the best that it can be. And by virtue of doing that every day, it will build a better product in the end.
Well, and a lot of those happy little mistakes turn into really wonderful mistakes. I think especially in business and creative projects, that's something that I think we're discovering too with Hyperbaby and collaborating with people, is that, your vision of something like an end goal, it's never really what you envisioned, but it's not always, usually it's more fulfilling because you found a different path to achieve something that you didn't know was there. It's a discovery process. So I think that's something that we are experiencing too as we go along and we working with other people. And there's always a wonderful silver lining to what we're doing. It's always a discovery of other people, or we get to bring other people up with us or share our story with people. Those are all things that, I didn't wake up in the morning and go, geez, I really want to run a podcast. Oh, yeah, that's great. Good idea. But it's becoming one of those things that I'm really look forward to, the whole process of it.
Well, it seems like, you get inspired by something, right? You get inspired to write a book, to have it published. You get inspired to collaborate with others. And how do you do it? Well, the medium of, podcasts are so popular. You get inspired by these things. So those are, what kind of motivate us in a certain direction or to step on a certain path. And then, as you're stating, Amy and Chris, you step on that path and you want to enjoy every step of that path versus being caught up. And I, too, am in the process of working on a book and profound experiences of noticing when the mind or the ego takes over and there's a sense of pressure in the present moment that is trying to force something into being, force a sentence to turn out right or whatnot, or the paragraph. When, my mindful practice with regard to that is I need to take a break. I need to ground myself in the present moment and just kind of let it go, because part of me is chasing something. I'm chasing an end result. I'm chasing the final product, and that's taking me out of the playful present moment, which is where creativity comes from. And, I've had some profound experiences where I could just tell my ego or my mind was just trying to force something. And I ended up writing something, and it was okay. It was good enough. And I'm just like, okay, but I feel this pressure. I feel this angst. I feel this stress. I'm going to take a break. So I went for a little walk. I had some piece of mail to deliver. So it was like 9 o'clock at night. It was actually raining outside, drizzling, nothing too significant. And I thought, well, I'll just go out there. So being in the rain made me real present. I was just enjoying the rain. It was a light, warm rain. It wasn't nothing too, bothersome. But the wind was out there, and I was feeling the wind just kind of play, and move the rain around and whatnot. And all of a sudden, the thing that I was working on and it seemed to be forced up in my office, I had concepts just come to me and, in a sense, come through me that was just like, whoa, okay, all right. And I was just there in that process and just allowing it to unfold. And before I knew it, before I got to the post office, I had what I call co-created this better version of what I had just got done writing. But because I was in this real state of presence, part of me, and the ego part, wanted to run home to write this. But because of that presence and just wanting to continue to experience that, I went for a longer walk. And even more stuff came flowing to and through me in a way that by the time I got back, I wrote for like another hour because it was there and it was readily available. That when I, got, back in front of the computer, I was able to, allow this stuff to manifest in the present moment. And you get done, I'm just like, wow. That woohoo feeling,
Right. So much better.
Yeah. And that's the priceless part is no matter what happens with what I wrote, no matter what happens with it, that experience was priceless. Anything and everything that comes after it is just something that is way out of my control. For the most part. I mean, there's things you can do to, facilitate, getting it to people or whatnot, that they could read it or whatnot. But just that process of nobody can take that away from you if you're in that present moment. Because I'm like, you know, dude, this was like this was just so profound. And as I'm thinking about it, I'm getting chills again, and my hairs are standing on end. That priceless experience, no one and nothing can take away from you. Right. They may try. They may come across and criticize it, saying that's hogwash or baloney, whatever it is, or that's, you know, what they might say. Or if they do the opposite and they say, well, that was just awesome and amazing, you know, they're stroking your ego or knocking your ego down. You can just be present going, yeah, I was there. You know, you should have been there when it actually manifested into existence.
Right, you were able to funnel that and be a part of that. Being a part of the creation, like you said, is something you can't.
And not, you know, not clutching it like a cornerstone too much. You know, it's one of those things too, like we talked about, Connor and I met each other through martial arts, and we both have a fairly deep martial arts background. And one of the things that comes to mind is that scene in is it Enter the Dragon, or Chuck Norris and Bruce Lee are fighting at the end. It's not Enter the Dragon. Return of the Dragon.
Right, the Way of the Dragon.
Where he's fighting Chuck Norris,
right?
And like he's just getting hit. Chuck Norris is anticipating his every move, and then at some point in the fight, he starts flowing with it, and that's when he starts winning the fight. And that's kind of, for me, how creativity is. You know, you can't be afraid to let that go. Amy and I actually talk about this a lot. We have really good ideas occasionally, and some of them, we don't write them down, and we just kick ourselves for that. But some of the best ideas, they come back to you. They come back to you.
You give me chills thinking about it, because that's the comment I was going to make, that you just said it. You voiced it, you know, so well, as I'm experiencing that as well, that there are times when I'm sleeping in the middle of the night after I've gone to the bathroom and I go back to bed and just stuff just starts flooding in, and I'm like, this is my time. I need my sleep. But some of it is just like, whoa, I should really get up and write this. But there's another part where if you trust in that process and you let it go, it will come back.
Right.
It may be a little bit different. It may be a little different wording or whatever, but it's there. You were a conduit, and it came to and through you. It will come back, you know, once you find yourself in that place again.
Yep. Yeah. I think Chris had gotten me a book, Stephen King's On Writing. And there is a part in there where he mentioned something about, people ask him, do you carry a notebook around to jot down ideas? And I think he said, no, he doesn't do that, because really the good ideas won't leave you alone. You know what I mean?
Right?
They just keep coming back.
That's
the
true.
bad ideas, if you write all the ideas down, they're not all good.
And if you look at his work as a whole, there's some thematic, you know, resonances that come back. Even in novel to novel, you're like, oh, that kind of, you know, and then you're wondering, is there like some kind of connection between Castle Rock and the Dark Tower? And it kind of adds for this neat like world that he's built.
Well, it's all, you know, we write about what we know about, or what we're passionate about, or what interests us, right? And I think that's what he's kind of speaking to is there are some things, some ideas, some thoughts, whatever it is, projects, thoughts, ideas, they're just going to keep coming back to you. They're going to keep knocking on the door and saying, you know, do something with this, you know, and yeah, I mean, you can write things down too, and then there's a benefit to writing things down and journaling and having it there so you can come back to it, because I've done that. I've journaled and I've come back going and read some of that going, wow, that was some really impressive stuff that came to and through me. And I'm like, I don't know if I could rewrite it as well as it came, you know, onto the page at that moment. But yeah, to be just tapped into that process, you know, it's got a life of its own. And just another little quick comment to something you had mentioned is, you know, there's a common saying at least in acting, and I think maybe it applies to other professions as well, is it takes 20 years to become an overnight success.
Right.
You know, oftentimes, we don't see the backstory of somebody's life and how they struggled and practiced and went to this audition, or they're on stage, or they just practice in their own living room, whatever, and then eventually they get this big break, but they've been building, you know,
don't be afraid to fail. Don't be afraid to fail. That's one thing that a lot of everybody does, and when you do it, you're afraid of it, but it's really part of becoming good at anything.
And if you really can, if you reframe it and say embrace failure, I'm going to go for the failure. I'm going to be okay with the failure. Because what is failure? Because really, if you put yourself out there, you're being a success. You may not attain that which you expected or were hoping for, but there's so many successful elements through that process that what's your brain, what's your mind focusing on? I'll give you a quick example. Last year, about this time, I was inspired to try my hand at acting again because my undergrad is in BFA in theater. And, so I looked at what was upcoming for the local play, the community theater. And there was a play, the Sherlock Holmes play that resonated with me because of what I do and just the myth of Sherlock Holmes and what he his character personifies and symbolizes. So I didn't tell anybody about this. I just I felt this divine kind of inspiration, and I went and I got the play, and for 2 months before the auditions, I just stepped on the path of playing with the play. So I read it and I did all kinds of different things from my acting background, through my mental health background, through just applying this concept of just exploring and playing and embodying this world like you were talking about, Amy. And I had such a joy. Every day I did that for, the time that I spent. It was just priceless. It was this experience that, nobody could take away from me. And of course, I was preparing for the day that the audition would come, and even ahead of time, knowing that the day that I would audition, it wasn't about getting the part. I was there because of this process that inspired to undertake, and it was such an enjoyable process. That would have been just another part of the unfolding of the experience if I had got cast. I wasn't cast, yet I left having, I was like in a giddy mood. I was kind of like, woohoo, not because I didn't get cast or that I failed, because there was 2 months of success that I included other people in, and we just had such a blast with this. That was the priceless element of it. So it's kind of like our books, if it gets published or if it never gets published and it doesn't do anything, I'm okay with that. Because it's the process that has been so amazing and so wonderful. It's kind of like, okay, whatever comes.
So thanks for sitting through that conversation with Connor. It was very informative. I think we had a good session with him. So we are going to do a read-through of day 4 on a Choose Your Own Adventure. And Amy is going to narrate.
Yeah, I'm excited.
The sultry sounds of Amy's voice.
And Chris gets to be a little boy.
Oh, goody. So are you prepared? I hope you are. Here is the 4th day at Choose Your Own Adventure at Skull Crush Mine.
All right. The answer is clear.
A body of this is near where I stay.
Water. You make for the right-sided tunnel. With one hand trailing the cool rock, you follow the path leading down for some time. The rivulet of water that had appeared at your feet is swiftly becoming a brook. Your superior perception assures you that, for now, you are alone. Or at least, you were. Tendrils of smoky light dance across the ceiling and coalesce in the center of the tunnel to form one fist-sized ball of warping silver. You stop, fingers ready to loose a spell. The silver orb hovers at eye level as if it's studying you. Apparently satisfied, it flies down the hall a few paces, then waits. After a few moments, it bulbs impatiently.
All right, then.
You whisper with a smirk.
I'm coming.
The beacon follows the winding brook, ending at the bank of a black pool. It stops and rests patiently on the still surface.
Well, that's a job easily done. Now, if I were a boy, where would I hide?
You look over the silent waters. Most eyes would never have seen the crevice in the rock across the pool. Certainly only a very few could have noticed the distinctive griffin-like beak of the toy peeking from the curtain of moss.
Hamdel?
Your voice cuts the silence with warmth and life.
Your mother sent me to find you.
A squeak from across the pool confirms it, and with a quick prayer that the pool be both shallow and lifeless, you wade to the boy's hiding place. A soot-stained, tousle-haired face pokes from the moss as you near.
Am I in trouble?
With a smile, you lift the boy onto your shoulders.
Not unless this mystery water stains my good riding clothes.
Making your way back to the shore, the boy takes up a hushed chatter.
Did you know I'm a good swimmer? I also went at being quiet. Some guy tried to grab me, but I sneaked into the mine. He said the words I'm not supposed to say. Hey, you're really tall.
Once on shore, the glowing orb drifts close. You check the boy for cuts and broken bones.
That was smart of you to run from that man. Also very clever to write the riddle.
The boy laughs.
Oh, that wasn't me.
A chill covers your arms and your heart drops to your stomach.
Then who? Opa. He did the writing and showed me where to hide. Wasn't that the best hiding spot?
With a flash, the orb reshapes until it resembles a humble elderly man. He's carrying a miner's lantern, and his hat can't contain his unruly yet familiar tousled hair. The man winks at the boy.
See? My grandpa. I knew it was him because Mother has his big face in a picture hanging over our fireplace.
Voices from the tavern echo from your memory. That mine is haunted. You send a mental apology for assuming them all entirely insane. With a wave, the spirit walks across the pool and dissipates. You look at the beaming boy.
Any chance your Opa knows where we can get a ladder?
The trek back takes twice as long, and in that time you learn through whispered conversation that the boy can cartwheel, loves all types of pies, has a crush on someone named Sol, and to your horror, aspires to become a bard. After a pitchy rendition of Where Have All the Milkmaids Gone?, Hamdel flings his arms wide, and the plush griffin lands in an ancient mining chute. Before you can stop him, Hamdel climbs inside. He bumps a lever that drops the chute and sends the boy careening off into the dark. You plunge after him, spinning and racing down the mine's levels. In a sudden rush, the darkness falls away and you land hard on the ground. The world spins, and for a moment, you're not entirely sure what you're seeing. Hamdel groans on the ground next to you, shaken but alive. Sights and sounds slot themselves into place with jarring realization. You've landed in the middle of a goblin nest. One feather-crowned goblin sits in a makeshift throne, chicken leg dangling from his open mouth. He's flanked by a pair of tattooed warriors armed with pickaxes. Your entrance has caught them off guard, giving you one of two opportunities. Overpower them with a fierce attack, or put on your most winning smile and use your formidable charisma to negotiate your way to freedom.